Now, you men are part of this Air Force and are about to complete training at one of these bases. Training for your H-hour, the hour of attack on your D-Day. You're going to be provided with the best equipment, expert instruction, and the same type plane you will use in combat. Your training here will allow enough time to acquire the knowledge that will make you experts in air combat. Our definition of a successful mission includes a round trip for you and your plane. Our job here is to weld you into units and condition you for the split-second decisions of combat. Decisions based on training. Decisions that spell the difference between life and death. Being careless or lazy here means that you'll have to learn while over the target. And by that time, it may be too late. Your instructors are airmen who only a few weeks ago were flying combat in all parts of the world. These men know what they're talking about. They've been there, and they've come back. They're here to train and prepare you until that final hop-off at a POE. From there on in, gentlemen, you're on your own. While you're here, listen to your instructors. Study, concentrate, and work.
I've been a reco pilot for a couple of years now, and as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing to compare with the wallop I get out of being the first man over the target. To begin with, there are two kinds of reconnaissance, tactical and photo. TAC reco pilots usually work in pairs, flying at low altitudes. The photo reco pilot is the lone wolf of the Air Forces and generally goes in at great altitudes. The F-5 reconnaissance plane is a stripped-down P-38 with armor, guns, and all excess weight removed. It will outfly anything the enemy puts into the air and carries 3 cameras in the nose of the plane. Photo reconnaissance crews also use F-7s, B-24s bristling with cameras, guns, and armament. F-7s brought back the first photographs of truck, until then an unobserved Jap base. Photo reco men receive the longest and toughest course in the 3rd Air Force. This reco pilot, operating from a South Pacific base, is about to begin a mission. All he has to do is navigate successfully to the enemy target, observe and photograph, and return safely. Sounds simple enough, doesn't it? I did it for months before coming back here, and have a bit of advice to give you men. Get the idea out of your head that any flying over enemy territory is simple. It's tough, complicated, and exacting, and no two missions are ever alike.
Easy Terror 2 from 6, King, Queen, 8. Easy Terror 2 from 6, King, Queen, 8. Go ahead.
All right. Drop down.
What you learn in the 3rd about navigation, military strategy and tactics, photography, and the hours spent in air training are all of equal importance. The enemy has 100 tricky ways of concealing his movements, but a well-timed photograph, shot by trained hands, can reveal plenty to the practiced eye of the photo interpreter. In addition to getting the pictures, the pilot must observe clearly, quickly, and intelligently. The mission is Rabaul, on the northeastern tip of New Britain. At one time, the strongest Japanese naval and air base in the Southwest Pacific. Rabaul, 4 degrees, 10 minutes south latitude, 152 degrees, 18 minutes east longitude. This is a bird's eye view of the target. It holds no secrets from the lens of the reco cameras, and the information brought back on film tells the bombers and fighters where to strike. The Reco pilot gets back to his base all right if he's learned his job thoroughly. The wheels have hardly stopped rolling before the cameras are carefully unloaded from the plane. The film is rushed to the laboratories immediately for processing. Skilled technicians waste no more time than the pilot did over the target to place this graphic data in the hands of S2. Meanwhile, the pilot heads for intelligence to be interrogated. Future tactics and strategy depend greatly upon the information and photographs that Reco men bring back. These first-hand reports are correlated and compared with information already available, and the photographs are carefully studied. The net results of good reconnaissance pictures clearly spot enemy movement, new targets, and judge the effectiveness of recent strikes. Armed with these photographs and a clear report based on the visual observations of the Reco pilots, tomorrow's missions, next week's missions, and next month's missions may be planned. The final result of reconnaissance is always the payoff. Over a period of months, the 5th and 13th Air Forces hit Rabaul again and again. Shipping was cut from 250,000 tons a year to less than 25% of that amount as of June 1944. The once vital harbor was severely damaged and tons of supplies and equipment destroyed. Airstrips and enemy planes were constantly rendered unserviceable. Reconnaissance paved the way for the bombers that went in and flattened Rabaul.
I'm a bomber pilot. When I was in training, a string of successful missions painted on the side of a fortress seemed a million miles away. But overseas, we kept the ground crew busy with that paintbrush, and mission after mission piled up. Now I'm back at the 3rd Air Force to tell you how we did it, because it's the training and preparation you receive here that gets you over the target and brings you back. I learned the first day I met my crew what was expected of me and what I expected of them. If a pilot lets down, his crew lets down with him. And over enemy territory, a bomber and a crew belong up, not down. My crew knew that. Bob, the co-pilot, Bert, Dave, Chuck Collins, Frank, Mickey, Ferguson, Happy, and Joe. Just as in training, it all starts with how hard and how intelligently you listen at briefings. I knew that the information reconnaissance gave to intelligence and which was passed on to us at briefings ensured complete accuracy. My crew and I were determined to put every bomb where it would count most. My assignment now is to keep impressing combat teamwork upon you every day as long as you're here. Every bomber is just part of a team. Every squadron and every group are only part of the biggest team of all, the AAF. On your first combat mission, you, your crew, and your plane are suddenly propelled into being an integral part of the Air Forces. Better get this straight and keep it straight as long as you're in action. No matter where you are in the air, formation is what counts. Formation means protection, firepower, and a round trip. You leave your base in formation, you gain altitude and fly to the rendezvous with the fighters in formation. You go over the target in formation, and you return in formation. Once over enemy territory, you're going to have the book thrown at you. Before you complete your first mission, you'll be thoroughly aware that it takes a perfectly trained crew to make a bomber really function. Approaching the target, all the sweating you did on the ground back in the 3rd begins to have meaning. You're forced to remember everything you learned, every second of every mission you fly. The hours of combat training, the discipline, the groundwork, the knowing and understanding the other fellow's job. Those are the elements that go into making a successful bomber crew.
Pilot the Bombardier, she's yours. Bomb bay doors open.
And this is the moment towards which everything is directed. To place your Bombardier over the target.
Bombs away.
On this day, 550 forts and libs, escorted by 675 P-51s, 47s, 38s, and RAF Mustangs, smashed a ball bearing plant at Erkner, 15 miles southwest of the German capital. 1,100 tons of bombs were dropped on the target. A few weeks later, as part of the round-the-clock bombings, the heart of Berlin was hit. 1,475 tons of bombs were released through a heavy overcast. The anti-aircraft fire was intense, but this strike was unusual. There was no fighter opposition. On the other side of the world, other air forces are spearheading the attack on Tokyo. In December 1943, Cape Gloucester, a projection off the western end of New Britain, was bombed, strafed, and softened up prior to an amphibious landing by the ground forces. In the 2 weeks preceding the H hour of this D-Day, B-25s flew 511 of the 1,215 sorties against this objective. From December 10th through December 26th, D-Day, more than 3,000 tons of bombs were dropped on gun positions, coastal installations, beach and bivouac areas, and thousands of rounds of ammunition and 75mm shells were poured into Japanese positions. Landing successful, our air forces began operating from Cape Gloucester and severed the main Jap line of supply between New Guinea and eastern New Britain. Many of us who helped advance the bomber line to Gloucester were trained in the 3rd Air Force.
I remember this briefing as though it was yesterday. The mission? To escort B-17s on a strike against Emden, Nazi U-boat base. You fighter pilots are going to be invited to a lot of briefings, just like this one. At every briefing, you listen to learn, because in combat there'll be no time to learn. You'll find that out on your first mission over enemy territory. You'll find out, too, it's the things you learn in fighter training that help bring you back again. At least that's the way it worked with me. Ground school, tactics, flying, they're all of equal importance. Don't ever forget that, men. The enemy is smart, we all know it. But the odds are with you, and I'll tell you why. Your planes are better. Your period of training is longer and more complete. You're not subjected to daily bombings while you learn to fly. And everything you use every day, food, gasoline, clothing, equipment, is tops. Aside from all this, the enemy is kept busy moving bases, and and maintaining their supply of combat and training planes, which are constantly being destroyed by our forces. With us, formation is just as important as it is with the bombers. You've heard a lot of talk about comparing combat flying to football, but I don't think any quarterback in the world ever had the kind of interference that we supply. You know, the men in the bombers keep telling us fighter pilots the most welcome sight they experience is when we pull into formation alongside of them. I've always managed to get a kick out of being up there, convoying those big jobs in and out of the target area. Believe me, you get plenty of time to think flying missions. I know a lot of you sitting out there can't wait to get up in the air. But let me tell you, flying is only about 1/10 of the job. You still have to use those machine guns at the right time, the right place. Last year, I thought that the hours I spent on gunnery runs would never end. That was before I went overseas. Now, to say that I am grateful for those hours is an understatement. And remember, no fighter pilot is trained to be an individual ace. That's why you hear teamwork over and over again. Every time you do get into a dogfight and knock one out of the sky, remember, your wingman is in there watching out for you all of the way, or you don't come back. You only press the button at the right time. Considering, men, now is the time to learn. Know your enemy, shoot accurately, and shoot first.
The weather had cleared and the air was cool as the last of June 5th, 1944 ticked away. On the coast of England, 4,000 ships and several thousand smaller craft were ready and waiting for the men. The men who had trained and sweated and anticipated this moment for weeks and months and years. They all had a score to settle. airfields scattered throughout the English country. Strategic objectives were besieged by specially trained, hand-picked men. At dawn on D-Day, 1,000 U.S. heavy bombers resumed the attack on coastal batteries begun by the RAF the night before. The planes were joined by the 640 guns of the warships lying offshore. Went ashore and proceeded to do the impossible. They established beachheads where the Nazis said no beachheads could be established. Tactical air forces struck out against immediate targets in the rear of the enemy lines. They smashed railroads, blasted bridges, bombed key road junctions, knocked out power and water supplies, and strafed the grounded Luftwaffe. During the day, the heavy overcast rose to 3,000 feet, and aerial operations were stepped up. In all, 13,000 sorties were flown by Allied aircraft, 8,000 of which were made by the AAF. The Marauders and A-20s, bombing from low altitudes and flying as many as 3 missions a day, continued the tactical assault in cooperation with the ground troops. This has been an airman's view of a D-Day, but the war is not over. For every airman flying combat, every mission is an H-hour and a D-Day. Despite the headlines, there is no over-optimism among the men and women pressing the attack. They know that throughout Nazi-controlled Europe and the spread-out empire of Japan, savage fighting lies ahead. The forces of fascism, the forces of tyranny and aggression must be destroyed. You men in the 3rd are being prepared to help finish that job. See that you're ready to do it.
It should be apparent to all of you that combat calls for all a man has in the line of brains, teamwork, and guts. If you have learned your job while training in the 3rd Air Force, you can take off on your HR missions, confident of your ability to destroy the enemy, and confident, too, of your ability to return to base again and again until ultimate total victory is won.